In the early 1900s, many black youth in North Amarillo didn't finish beyond a sixth grade education because of a lack of resources. Then came along a professor named Silas S.C. Patten, who opened a school and a church and became a theological and educational pillar in North Amarillo. I was able to learn more as we honor Black history here on the High Plains. S.C. Patten was a man who took his relationship with God serious. He organized Johnson Chapel AME Church in the 1920s as a source of faith and spirituality for North Amarilloans. Born in February 1873, he and his wife Claire came to Amarillo from Houston back in 1928.
Education for him was, and his faith was everything.
Reverend Benny Anderson is the pastor of New Hope Baptist Church in Amarillo and is the great-grandson of Professor Patten.
He was born in Evergreen, Texas. His brothers and sisters, there were 10, 11 of them. And so they were born, a few of them were born in slavery. And he was born maybe a couple of years outside of slavery.
As was the case for so many black men and women back then, just existing proved to be dangerous at times.
He was half black and white. He was not always accepted everywhere. But, you know, I think that just his work ethic and his belief, just really, that was what made his mark here.
Reverend Anderson says Patten and another North Amarillo pioneer, Bones Hooks, crossed paths and Patten wound up in Amarillo. And when he arrived, he became the principal at Frederick Douglass School. That was located near the railroad tracks in the 100 block of South Harrison. But the professor saw a need for higher education for black youth.
There was a need for a high school because, see, our African-American kids could not go any farther than sixth grade here.
Linda Vaughn, a retired educator from the Amarillo ISD.
So families who wanted their children to have a higher education had to afford, and most of them could not, but because on the salaries that they made, but they did it because they knew that education was extremely important.
And with that, Professor Patten donated his home at 18th and Hughes to become Patten School, the first high school in the entire Panhandle for black students.
It was a 4-room house. It went up through 11th grade. My aunt went there, and she told us about, you know, having to, our family at least had a car, but there are a lot of families that did not. And at that time, North Heights was all dirt roads. So when it rained or snowed or whatever like this, kids still had to walk, but they wanted education so badly. Their parents wanted them to have education so badly that they walked to school, and it was fine with them.
Patten was professor of the school until Carver opened in 1947. He believed education and faith were the two building blocks of a thriving community.
The church was called Patten Church. Well, in September of 28, I believe it was, he moved the church to 1901 North Washington Street. And it is now the site of Johnson Chapel AME Church.
Professor Patten died in 1943 at the age of 70, blazing a trail for people like his great-grandson.
I can't put into words. You know, I live right by this church. I purposely pass by it every day.
And setting an example.
It's I know there's something that needs to be done, and I know that I can do some of those things.
For an entire community. And Reverend Anderson and Vaughn both say young people all over Amarillo can learn from men like Patten to listen to others and be willing to find solutions to problems. You can find more stories honoring black history, like how Ike Avery made history at PD High School. You know where to go, myhighplains.com.